available. All right, so the VOLTTRON 5.0 release candidate went out earlier this week. It incorporates numerous major new features, including message bus performance improvement. We see anywhere from 4 to 10 times improvement of message throughput. This is pretty significant, and it requires no changes. This like most of the changes that have happened in RC1. Yeah, backwards compatibility is not a problem. You don't have to change anything in your code in order to use the new message bus improvements. We've also got a tagging service which lets you associate metadata with tag strings so that you can look them up more dynamically. So instead of just having to rely on things being named outdoor air temperature, you can ask for all the outdoor air temperatures once you've set that up. So much more dynamic. It'll allow a lot more interesting strategies for agents finding topics they're interested in, and maybe even launching themselves based on those. And this again is completely optional. It's a separate database table, so if you don't want to use tagging, you don't have to, and there's no. It will be an invisible change if you're not using it. We've also got new historian. The crate DB historian's been in there for a while, but now it's much more integrated. We've got a simplified multi-platform communication, which is another major feature. So if you want to subscribe or publish to a topic on a remote platform, you don't even have to know, you don't have to know that it is a remote topic. You can just get it. Previously, you'd have to set up a forwarder agent and know the VIP address of the remote platform. Now it just happens after you set up some peers, and they can share topics. And if we want to go, and again, this should be invisible. If you don't set it up, you don't use it, so there's no problem. We've got some significant contributions from the community in this release as well. The crate historian was done in concert with Intellimation. There's drivers for SAP 2.0 and ChargePoint contributed by Casensum, along with some Jupyter notebooks that they used in some training. So there's quite a bit of new content contributed by the community, which is big, and we're very glad to see that. And if I've forgotten anything, please speak up and let me know. But it's I think this release probably has the most contributed code of any previous VOLTTRON release, so that's great to see. So it's released as a release candidate because we recognize that a lot of people are using VOLTTRON in their daily research or business, and so we don't want to make this the default branch until it's had some time in the wild for people to kick the tires and let us know anything they find, any tweaks they need, and we'll get more experience using it on our internal campus as well. But we really like to see it people try it out in their own environment to see if there's any differences there. So with that, let's see. Is Craig online? Don't see him. Okay. One of the reasons that we delayed the release a little bit was we had a last-minute problem with the BACnet library. Kyle, did you want to talk about that real quick so that people are aware what happened?
Sure. So we've been sticking with Backpipes version 13 for a very long time, and we had been reluctant to update because there were some API changes, and it was working. And then we started running into we ran into some problems that were associated with version 13. So an effort was made by Andrew he's with Intellimation, right? Or
is a contractor for them, yeah.
Yeah, he's a contractor for Intellimation. He went ahead and did the work to push it forward to version 15 of Backpipes. and it worked fine for him, but we discovered some problems with the Backpipes library in certain circumstances um, when we were deploying it here at the lab. So we did some investigation, got into contact with the developer Backpipes, and because we discovered a bug in the Backpipes library, and working with Joel Bender, the guy who maintains it, we were able to get it resolved, and so now VOLTTRON 5 requires Backpipes 16.4, which is the first version that has the fix for the problem. And the problem had to do with sending multiple requests to the same device concurrently. Backpipes would drop the responses, the response that came second, and from the same device. Had to do with it was a caching problem. So anyway, Joel got that worked out, got us a fix. We tested it. It works, and so that's where we're at. And this all happened like earlier this week. So we are deploying it to other buildings here on campus just to make sure that it's not causing any unforeseen problems. And yeah, so that's what we're going to use. And it also includes the Backpipes proxy also includes some like code cleanup that Andrew did for us as well. So
so yeah, we should get Joel on here at some point, just because you're having he's very responsive, a good contact, and we were definitely making use of his library. So
yeah, he put in a significant amount of effort into understanding our code and making sure that we weren't doing anything wrong. So he's really good about that.
So cool, thank you. So yeah, there was a little last minute work there, but in the end, we're able to use the latest version of Backpipes, which is great because we know people are using that, Andrew at least. And it had some good improvements for us anyway, so that's good.
And there's a few things that it fixes that it won't come up under normal circumstances, having to do with like this, like we have a fake device that you can test against. Well, in version 13 of Backpipes, there's some limitations of that device that you don't run into in the newer versions.
Hey guys, it's Nigel from SES.
Hey, yeah.
Just wondering if that Backpipes gets installed automatically with VOLTTRON now, the new version.
When you go to upgrade, you need to rerun Bootstrap with the upgrade switch, and that will make sure that all of the libraries are up to date with what's in the requirements file.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Oh, one thing I did do is in the new version, the core VOLTTRON executable has a Backpipes requirement, even though it doesn't actually use Backpipes itself. I removed that so that if you're like playing around, like say Backpipes 16.5 comes out and you're like, oh, this fixes a bug that affects us. If you would try and upgrade to it, you do it by hand, and then you tried to run VOLTTRON, it would complain. I removed that from the core VOLTTRON executable requirements, so now you can actually play around with the version of that library, and VOLTTRON itself won't complain. Now, if you try to go back to Backpipes version 13, the proxy is no longer compatible with 13, but if you say pushed up to like 16.5 or whatever the next version is, it should still work.
Great. All right. Let's see. As far as migrating from 4.1 to 5.0, it's probably one of the easier upgrade paths we've had. The biggest directive is that you need to rebuild your agents after you update, just to make sure they're running with the latest code. Otherwise, you could see some errors. The forward historian, if you are limiting the topics that you're forwarding, so that's something that we've done. We split the forwarding of topics from some devices. The new default will send all the topics if you don't include some flags. And so that's just something to be aware of if you're using the forward historian. If you're using the forwarder and just forwarding everything anyway, then it will just continue to behave the same.
Yeah. We did actually make it backwards compatible with the old configuration file. But that method of configuring the forward historian is now deprecated. You should move to using the new flags.
Okay. All right. If there's no immediate questions on 5.0, I was going to turn the floor over to Olga, and then when she's done, we can revisit 5.0 if there's any questions, or if other people have anything that they want to present, that would be great.
Did we want to talk about how the historians now support the config store?
Yeah, sure. Why don't you mention that?
Okay. We reworked all of the historians, so now that they all support the config store. There are some features now that used to be exclusive to the forward historian. Now all of the historians support them, and we've got those documented on Read the Docs. But now you can dynamically change the settings of a historian via the config store, and it will just update the settings automatically, just like the master driver does. Yeah. And we also fixed a bug in the forward historian where it would leak file descriptors if you had a flaky connection. So that's kind of a big deal because that severely affected some of our deployments here, and we're glad we finally sorted that out.
Yeah, and then with the forwarder being connected to the configuration store, you can dynamically change its behavior. And so one way that we're doing that is there's a new cache-only flag in the forward historian, which means don't even try to send it, just write it to cache, and that's useful if you're upgrading the target. So when we're upgrading the server that all our data is getting shipped to, we can tell the forwarders just go to cache-only mode while we're doing this, and then switch them back once things are back up.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just extremely handy to be able to work with that in a dynamic way.
Yeah. We'd also like to mention that there is a data mover agent which handles most of the common use cases for the forward historian, and it's more efficient than the forward historian.
Yeah,
So,
I think we covered that one previously.
Did we? Okay.
So.
Just like to remind people that it's there.
Yep.
Don't feel like it gets enough use for what it's for.
Yeah. Okay. So thanks. Yeah, and we'll revisit this after Olga's presentation if there's any other questions. So with that, I'll turn it over to Olga.
Great. Thank you very much, Jeremy. And good morning, everyone. My name is Olga Kuchar, and I will be presenting today a project here that is led by PNNL called DR Power, a data repository for power system open models with evolving resources. Quite a mouthful, so we just like to call it DR Power for short. Dr. Power is funded under the Advanced Research Project Agency Energy, or known as ARPA-E. This is a project that started in July of last year, so we have just finished off our first year and going into our second. And my computer is going a little bit slow. There we go. So Mark Rice is the principal investigator. Steve Elbert is the co-PI. I'm the web portal technical lead for Dr. Power, and Lorenzo Marinovici is our curator lead. And pretty much what we're trying to do is provide an open access power grid data set to the public to provide the capability to uniquely review, annotate, and curate data sets. And we want to ensure that the data and models for the power grid can be found and evolved as research continues to move forward, as well as users adding to those models. We have a partner, NRECA, the National Rural Electric Co-op Association. They have a framework called an open modeling framework that we are integrating into Dr. Power. But we are also integrating other grid tools, not just specifically for modeling frameworks. So the reason I'm talking to the VOLTTRON group today is that Dr. Power has started around the grid data program, but at the same time we have started to expand. We are holding data sets from other projects such as the Pacific Northwest Demonstration Project. Currently the NREL has provided wind and solar data, and they expect to provide us with about 25 terabytes of data within the next several months. So our scope for holding data has actually changed, and we are really wanting the VOLTTRON community to add to our data repository. If you are interested in sharing your data with others, this is a great place for doing that. If you are publishing information, you'll definitely like Dr. Power because we have a unique capability of providing digital object identifiers. So this allows you to assign like an ID number to your data set, and then you can actually cite it within publications. People can type in that DOI into a Google search bar, and it will take them directly to the data set on Dr. Power. Any questions so far? All right. So Dr. Power does have a steering committee made up of academics, government, industry, and here is a listing. So they help guide Dr. Power into being a visionary repository for the power grid. I also mentioned something about curation. We do plan on having a curation workflow in which we will be curating data sets and making sure that the metadata associated with data sets is complete and is useful to the community. So we have a list of folks. They're not just power engineers, but they're also linguists as well as librarians to help us in cataloging and collecting the appropriate metadata that we need. And so we are live. We are currently on version 1.5. We will be releasing version 2.0 around the Thanksgiving Day week. You can find us at egriddata.org, and you can look around, and I will be demonstrating this in under a minute here. You can look around, look at the data sets that we currently have, and do some searching. You can request for an account if you'd like to start figuring out how to share your data. This is a great time. We're kind of in a beta state. If you're interested in DOIs, again, we are in a beta state. We are still on a test harness for OSTI and for DataSite because of our curation process hasn't been completely implemented in version 1.5. So this allows the community to get a feel for what is a DOI, what information do you collect, and so just kind of get a better look and feel for the portal. So let me actually go over to our portal. So Dr. Power, this is live. You can access it outside of PNNL. This is not within the PNNL firewall. We are a public website at egrid.org. And this is our landing page, and you'll see some interesting things here. You'll notice that there is a little blurb about what this repository is about, what you can immediately do a search if you know what the type of files you're looking for. Currently, because we are a bit more focused on distribution transmission, you can also see lower on we have groups already defined, and we're hoping universities or like the VOLTTRON group will create their own group and add to our repository. So you already see NREL has map power test cases, Sustainable Data Evolution Technology, or SDET, another project within PNNL, some of their data, Texas A&M data. So you can come in and if you know what you're looking for, you can go ahead and search, or you can immediately just screen refreshes, browse our catalog. Currently, we have about 59 data sets in our repository. We have not linked up all of the data that we're going to be getting from NREL yet, but that is coming. And so if you don't know what you're looking for, you can kind of look and peruse. You can start seeing the data sets. Here, we have a 500 bus Polish system. We've also started collecting tools. And this is, again, something new for us. The users are really wanting to also share tools that are good with grid data. Or you can also search based on topics or tags. We, like VOLTTRON, we also have a tagging schema. And you can tag your data using our schema, and you can therefore search. So you can very quickly, for example, we have the GO competition, the grid optimization competition data sets in here. You can very quickly find what you're looking for. You might be looking at a particular format. Maybe you want a map power file, or maybe you'd like PDF, a common data format file, or, for example, the wind and solar data is in HDF5. You can actually search on formats. We are format agnostic, so we accept any type of file. We also can search on publishers, authors, or even licenses. Here a little bit. Most of our licenses, if you're using Dr. Power as your main distribution for your data, our licenses are all based on open data and therefore public licenses. And there is a list of public licenses to choose from. If we, for example, some folks want us to host data that has already been published, but they want a good home for it, so we will use whatever licenses are already in place. However, the data still has to be open to the public. When you're interested in a data set, you can go in to find out more information. So on that page, it kind of gives you a short blurb. Here, it tells you more information about the data set. And so here we see a title that is part of the transmission topic, and it gives you a short summary. Here, under Data and Resources, it will allow you to directly download data. And if you notice, I'm still logged in. I'm not logged in at all. I'm just perusing, so anonymous user. And you can download, or if there's a location that you'd like to take people to, when you can, and it will go to that resource and download it from that area. So that really helps when you have large files and you don't want to keep moving large files around. You want to point people into a particular direction. You are able to. Further along on the dataset page, we also have information. This is a W3 standard data catalog. The data that we are capturing, and so it's an RDF vocabulary. The nice thing is that this allows other search engines and other web browsers and other APIs to search our catalog and find programmatically what they might be interested or looking for. Other web browsers can find information. On the left side, this is a part of the grid optimization competition, so it tells you what group it's in, the type of license that's associated. You can actually hook into our data catalog using our application programming interface. And so the data set information, the metadata, can be viewed either as JSON or RDF. It looks something like that. So we have a lot of information behind the scenes that not only manually can you go and look through, but you can also link through via APIs. And NREL is actually going to be our first customer of our API, building a tool to help users search the wind and solar data that we will be hosting for them. So that's really cool. Eventually, we do plan on being on some social networks, Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook. So that currently is still our placeholder for that. And then, as I mentioned, you can request a digital object identifier. And when you go through that process, you will receive a number, and then you can cite this link anywhere. Come back to this page. Before I move on, are there any questions? All right. Hearing none.
Chandrika has a question that she posted in the chat. Did you guys address that?
Yeah, Olga, this is Chandrika. I just want, I asked that question like initially, but before you started giving a demo. So, now I see there is some advantages to posting here, than Osti or Dataverse. Osti or Dataverse is already out there, and it's common for all domains, and you can post your data set there. You can get a DOI, use that for publication, right?
Osti, so we are working with Osti. Osti provides the DOI number. I didn't think they had a location for hosting.
Okay, so you provide the link to the. Okay, so you have the you source the data, and you submit the link to Osti to get the DOI.
That is correct.
Okay.
Yeah, and Osti, of course, pushes it back up to DataSite. DataSite is the DOI manager.
Yeah.
So technically it's a DataSite number, and then in DataSite's databases that are linked to web crawlers, they then populate that information out to the servers so that people can find what they're looking for.
So all the metadata submitted for this, you do send it to the relevant metadata to Osti?
Yeah, that's an automated process. We and I'll show that process in a little bit. In all the metadata fields that are required for a DOI, you submit that, and an automatic message comes back from Osti giving you a DOI number.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I'm aware of that process. I just wanted to know if that's where you were submitting, or if there is a different one. Like you can get a DOI from Dataverse or somewhere else too, right?
So there are many companies out there that provide DOIs. We went with Osti because it's DOE's Office of Science and Technology Information, and they are providing the service free of charge to our Dr. Power members.
Okay.
So it provided a great synergy between the two.
Sounds good.
Good questions. I like that. Any other questions before I move on? All right. So just to go through, we do have different groups of users and data. And so here we've already started moving all of our MATLAB test cases into Dr. Power. And so we have about 36 data sets. And you can start seeing that we are slowly but surely building our data repository. And so when you see a group, you can see how many data sets are within each group. Stories are just information about Dr. Power, about news releases. Topics, as I mentioned, we are still model-centric, but that will be expanding over the course of the next year. Our resource page will eventually look a little bit different as more folks are coming online and becoming interested in what Dr. Power has to offer. We do have a forum set up for our users. Currently, no one has asked us any questions yet, but as we get going, we expect this to be quite a lively discussion area that can be centered around data sets or groupings like VOLTTRON or data formats, file conversions, depending on what the community, the energy community, is interested in. So as I said, this is a really quick overview of Dr. Power. Please go and check it out. You can register with us. Registration is simply filling out a very simple form, and then you will get an email saying that you have registered. We use a one-time login link once you've approved. So you will get that once your account has been approved. You log in, you set up your password, set up some other information, and away you go. You're probably thinking, well, why would I want to register? Well, we really would like you to register so that you can add to our repository. And so let me just log in. I have a test account here so you can see. So when I'm logged in and I'm a registered user of Dr. Power, you can submit data sets to the repository. And so it's very simple. You give it a title, whatever you think is appropriate. And this is just my test, so I'm just going to do something short so you can just see. And then description. You can make this as long as short as you'd like. If you need to point to other websites, you can. We can provide tags. So there are already some tags within Dr. Power. More tags are being added. So as we bring solar and wind online, we will, if there's already a standard tagging system for that data dictionary, we will incorporate that into our current tagging system. But you can pick and choose how many tags you really want. You can choose the topics that they fall into. We plan on having more. Currently, we have distribution transmission. And the type of licenses. These are most of the open source licenses or other licenses that we have. And that's it. And that pretty much sets up your landing page or that data set page that I showed you. And then you start adding files. And you can add as many files to your data set page as you'd like. As I said, we offer, we are data agnostic. So here we list the file extensions. If you don't see a file extension that you'd really like, just let us know and we'll make sure it's there. This is just a checker that it goes through to make sure files are kosher. And if you are uploading a CSV file, we actually have a lot more abilities and capabilities within the, there we go, within Dr. Power. So we can actually view CSVs, map them on a grid. Other data, if you have GeoJSON data, we can actually map that to a map. And then you just give it a nice title and some more information about the file if you want. And then eventually you get to the bottom. There is one caveat with Dr. Power. We do not want to see CEII information or PII information. And so, especially with the power grid, CEII is a large concern. And as the uploader, you must make sure that there is no CEII information within your data set. And we do create revisions, so as you keep changing maybe your resources or your data set page, you can actually say what you have changed, and you can also revert. So if you made a mistake on a revision and you want to revert back to the older revision, you actually have that capability. So this is kind of the basic information. If I only hit save, it would save and bring you to the data set. Just to let you know, we also collect a lot of other data. This is not required data. As we go through the curation process, curators will fill in some of this data, such as author, any spatial or geographic location information, how frequently is the data set published. So for example, NREL will be publishing probably every month new data sets. What time frame would it cover? How granular is the data? Any data dictionaries? Who do we contact? And a lot more information. So the website is already set up for gathering a lot of different metadata. We are hoping somewhere in the future that some of that will be able to be automated. Currently, we are having curators go through that process. And so here you see it. Here's my data set, and this is what it looks like when it was added. And then here you can see some new things coming up, such as requesting a DOI, or some files, especially with the open models that we're working with. Some people want different formats, and so people can request different formats. Any questions before I jump into the DOI?
What's the backend storage for it? Like, where is the data set stored?
The data sets are currently stored on 2 different servers. We have our own machine that we are storing these files because most of these files are relatively small. Once NREL came into the picture, we are now up on PIC, and we'll be storing data on PIC.
What about your metadata and the relation, like, what is your backend for all your metadata and searching?
SQL Server is our backend database for holding all of the metadata.
Okay, because again, when you're talking about multiple data sets with key value pairs, that might not scale for you, right? Especially when you have multiple tags. And
currently, it is scalable. We currently have not seen any issues at this point. When we do get to those issues, when we do come to them, then we will address those as need be. But at this point in time, or for the very near future, we don't see that as an issue.
okay.
Any other questions? So very quickly, I know I'm running out of time here. To request a DOI, there are many different fields that OSTI and DataCite require for an author to fill in. So I will very quickly just go through and say, to show you that it is quite an easy process. And right now we are on our testing harness, so this gives you the ability to kind of test and see what sort of information folks are wanting for a DOI. And you'll start seeing DOIs being quite common in publications and IEEE and others. So it is catching on. And this is an excellent way of gathering both being able to cite data, but also knowing where your data is being used and where it's being cited in other papers. We also allow folks to, if you have an ORCID ID, that you can put in your ORCID ID, and so we link to that. Or if you're interested in an ORCID ID, we link to that ability as well. And so you can add as many authors as you need to, as many contributors to your data as you need to, any organizations. So as you can see, it is a pretty long section. Any related documents that you might have. Again, this is geared towards national labs, so not all this information might be applicable to your product. And that's okay. If you ever have any questions in filling out the DOI, either myself or other curators are able to answer any questions and help you with this process. Any dataset product numbers, in our case, and this is not in version 1.5, but in 2.0, once the curation version is released, this will be populated with our product number that we have in our database. Any contract awards or other numbers can be put in as well. So let me go back up. Any organizations that are helping with the data or have contributed. If you choose to house your data within Dr. Power, the Dr. Power project will also be attributed some credit that we are holding your data, and so that always helps us as well. Any organization that sponsored your research. And then there's other information such as where it's available. Of course, it'll be here. Any subject categories that OSCE has, and we provide more information there. You can add more description, or if there's a paper that goes with the data, you can always add that. The web page URL. And this will be pre-populated in 2.0 right now. It gets filled in manually. So as you can see, we're still partially in that manual process, but it's a work in progress. And that should be it for that section. And then finally, the contact information. All right. And if you filled everything in correctly, then I think something stopped working here. Then you will immediately come back and get a OSCE number. I know OSCE was planning on being down this morning, so it could be that we are not connecting up with them. Then this number here would be populated, and this number here. And so it would provide you with that link.
All right.
Alrighty, so I really would invite the VOLTTRON community. I know there is data that you produce. I've heard through the grapevine that sometimes people would really like to share that data. We are hoping that you take a look at version 1.5 that is out there. Play with it while you get a chance before Thanksgiving, and see what you like, what you don't like. We always love feedback. And then 2.0 will be coming out around Thanksgiving, which will then have curators in place, and DOIs will actually be real DOIs assigned to data sets. So this is a great time to go out, and if there are any questions, please ask now or feel free to contact me. And I appreciate the opportunity to present to you today.
All right.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you, Olga. And if anybody else in the audience has something they'd like to present, just let us know and we'll get you on the agenda. So any questions for Olga? And if you want to follow up by email, email is in the chat window. All right. Any other items people want to discuss? Any questions about 5.0? We'll definitely be covering it more in the next, in the following office hours. A topic that we'd like to go over is our alerts and monitoring systems. I can't remember if we've covered that or when the last time we covered that was, so I think we'll go over that. Talk about how we monitor our own campus deployment properly next time. See, Yamin. So read the docs. We've tried to keep it updated. So read the docs should be up to date with the 5.0 release. And we'll continue to improve that documentation as time goes on. So, yeah.
Hey, Jeremy.
Yeah.
Just before you go, it's Nigel from SES. I was just wondering if one of you could take 5 minutes to explain how we can implement the alert agent. The documentation is a bit sparse, so
okay.
Yeah.
So we'll take a look at that documentation and improve it. So basically, what we have is we've got we use the alerter agent to monitor some topics. If those topics go down, then we send an alert that gets picked up by the emailer agent, and that will send out an email to people on the team. Just a second, and I can.
Okay, so yeah, we've installed it, and we've subscribed to topics. Like what we want to do is have it look at all the topics for one building, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's say. So
yep.
very general. And then if those topics stop coming through, then that'll send an alert. So we just want to know where to find that alert and how to subscribe to it, I guess, by the emailer agent.
So it'll get published to the local message bus. So the way we have it, so we've got the VOLTTRONs that are collecting data from the buildings, and then they forward data to a central VOLTTRON central instance, a VOLTTRON instance, and then the alerter is running there, and it's set up to monitor all the topics that should be coming in. And if something doesn't come in, then it publishes an alert out to the message bus, and
right.
The emailer agent is listening to those alert messages.
Okay, so we need to. Does that make sense, Daniel? So
yeah.
On our VOLTTRON Central instance, that's where we're running the alert agent. And so I guess to test it, we could just shut down our simulator.
Yeah, if you shut down your simulator or shut down the forwarder or whatever, stop sending those messages. And so here's what we've got for ours. We're monitoring these topics. If you don't see that data in this time period, then send an alert. And then we've got.
So the all suffix, all would just mean everything that contains the things before that.
Right.
So that's a little bit ambiguous in the documentation.
Okay.
Well,
so yeah. Go ahead, Kyle.
The all topic is the devices topic that's getting published. That's just one of the things that the drivers publish. And in our case, we've got it set up so our drivers only publish to the all topic, which contains everything that was scraped from the device all in one message. And so that's the only thing that's going to get forwarded. Therefore, that's the only thing that the alerter needs to listen for.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It's just one of the things that the devices publishes, and by the time it gets and that's also the thing that the historians listen for is the all topic, or is the all is the device publishes with the all suffix.
That's like is that one topic?
Yeah. Yeah. So it's um, for a particular device, it's one topic. So every device publishes, unless you turn it off, all devices publish to a topic with the all suffix.
Oh, so we will have that as well?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And in fact, it's recommended that you turn off all the other publishes except that one, because that's really the only one that you need. It's the one that the historians listen to, and 90% of the time that's what you need. And it contains everything that was published, that was scraped off the device anyway. So if you're interested in it, it's going to be in there.
Like, could you go PNNL/ you can't just go PNNL/SEB/all, right? That doesn't
No.
make sense?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, because this is an actual topic.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's not. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's a group for that one building.
For that one device.
Oh,
Yeah, so this is so if
oh,
so
so
we don't get individual.
AHU.
Otherwise, we get individual alerts for each of these topics if they weren't grouped. And
Yeah, okay.
if we lose communication to that building, we don't want to get spammed.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, okay. I wasn't aware of the grouping thing. but
yeah,
okay.
it's kind of new.
Okay. So yeah, if you have multiple things fail in that group, you get one message. Okay. That makes sense.
Okay. So that's what a configuration file looks like.
Yeah.
And the number is just the time interval after which you would want to send an alert, right?
Right. So, on some of our buildings, we might lose, or, they might be delayed or not always send us data. So
Yeah.
we'd get an alert for a point, and then we go check it, and it's like, no, it's fine. And you just
Yeah.
look, and there's a hiccup getting data off of that. So, yeah.
Right, and that might be, I'm not sure if that relates back to the BACnet issue. Maybe better now,
But
or totally unrelated.
I think it's the underlying system that we're talking to is what we've kind of found out.
Okay. So let's say we had a failure or an alert triggered in one of these groups. What happens next?
Then we get you set up the emailer agent with the addresses that you want to send to, and then it'll go out to whoever's in there.
Okay, so the config for that emailer agent, there's a subscription to that particular alert topic. I guess that's kind of...
Yeah, it'll subscribe to the alert topic, and let me see.
The general alert topic.
The general alert topic, and it'll send out an email to whoever is on there.
Okay.
So it will already subscribe to the alert, or is that something we need to add in the config file?
It's already set up to subscribe to alerts.
Oh, okay.
So we just need to trigger an alert and see if we can get an email to come through.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's pretty good first method of fault detection.
Yep. So right here, it's just by default is subscribing to the alerts topic.
It has served us very well.
Yeah, it provides a lot more visibility.
Oh, good. Yeah. I think it's pretty indispensable tool that you're having. Deployment, like many deployments out there.
Yep.
So there's other things that Andrew from Intellimation presented that looked interesting as far as like visualizing the performance of all the boxes and the log files and all that. But we'll get there if we need to.
Yep.
So Jeremy,
Yep.
Can I ask a question? Then, if you might not have a good answer to this, so I hate to put you on the spot.
No worries.
So, what if rather than using the forwarder, you wanted to use the data mover? How would you work the alert agent into that?
Right. So the alert agent is watching the message bus, and so if you're using the the data mover, that data doesn't reappear on the message bus.
Right.
So what you might do is there's also an agent watcher.
Yeah.
Which you can config and tell it, make sure these agents are always running. And if they die, then it'll send an alert and it'll go to follow the same path, and you'll get an email.
Yeah.
So you might do that on the historian that the data mover is sending to make sure that doesn't die.
Okay.
Yeah, but that's not going to tell you if the data mover stops sending data to it.
Right.
That's going to just tell you if the central historian.
Yeah, that would tell you if the central historian is dead. You could have an agent watcher on the remote platform monitoring the data mover, and you could also have one monitoring the topics there, and potentially send emails from there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Seems like seems like we would need to put some sort of alert message, have an alert message of some sort come out of the historian, the central historian, that just says, I haven't gotten this data in a while, you should look into that. That's the only thing I could think of that would be equivalent to what we're doing here with the forward historian.
Well, you could write so alerts are just a generic system. You could write any kind of alert agent that you wanted to write. So you could potentially have an alerter agent that's querying the database and checking topics and say, oh, I don't have anything in the database for these points in 5 minutes.
Oh, there you go.
And you could send out an alert. So another example of a agent that sends out alerts is this threshold detection agent.
Oh yeah.
So you can tell it, monitor these topics. If the value for that topic exceeds this max or min, send an alert. And so, that's kind of a good. You can follow that pattern. Plenty of examples of following a pattern. So yeah, you could write one that is based off the database.
Okay, great. Well, I'll leave it there. 12 o'clock. So.
Oh yeah,
thanks.
Okay, great.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Yep, thanks.
Have a good day.
Yep, see everyone in a couple weeks.
Okay.
Bye.